Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with another mask for you guys, and today I am ending the year with a terrible investment overall, because what I have for you here today is a French ANP-M51/53, or the French M53 mask. Now, I'd like to go on record and state before I get into the history, I completely bought this on a whim. I was sort of anticipating it to be a dud, but I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. So basically the story behind how I got this was I was basically in the r/gas masks official Discord, and some people, we were talking about French masks, and it came up that one person had spotted a French M53 which was completely black rubber, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen one of these before, and normally I'm not interested in, well, like, I kind of am interested in French masks, it's just I don't really collect them, I focus more on US stuff, but yeah, so the price seemed pretty decent, and I kind of went for it, but lo and behold, when I actually get it here today, it was not black, but in fact, it was just so badly and thoroughly discolored, it misled me to believing it was, it misled all of us into believing it was black rubber, unfortunately, so that's a bit of a pro tip to keep in mind when buying French masks, is they tend to discolor very badly. In fact, the way you see it now is after about an hour of scrubbing it with acetone and washing it, and just trying to get as much of that discoloration off as possible to assure that this mistake will not happen again in the future to a different seller. But anyways, now onto the history. I don't really have much to say here other than the fact that the French ANP-M51/53 was an upgrade to the earlier previous ANP-M51, which had a somewhat less fragile and more improved voice emitter/outlet valve system on the front, but overall was the exact same as the earlier M51. The main way to tell the difference between the M51 and 53 is obviously the outlet valve cage on the front here, whereas on the M53 it is a bit more rounded and kind of bulging out, whereas take for instance this Belgian ANP M51, it is more flat and dish out. It's a lot more subdued and very flat, like I said. So, and anyways, you can also see a good comparison about what color the rubber originally would have been. If you look underneath the harness here, you can see it still retains some of that original color left, but even after an hour of scrubbing with acetone, I cannot get it back down to that original color, unfortunately, so this is the color that it remains. Another difference is that the Belgian variants typically, well, I don't believe Belgium actually produced the M53. They pretty much only just used the M51, but another way to tell is the French ones will have a slightly more orangish brown, like a more rust brown colored paint on the hardware, whereas the Belgian ones are a more, like, sort of a greenish brown to even sometimes just flat out olive drab. But that, again, that's the main way you can tell the difference between the two. Another obvious difference is the Belgian ones will be stamped CBB on the chin piece, whereas the French ones, I believe the French ANP M51s were made by Guillat. I don't know who made this one. I'll look at the markings here in a moment. But anyways, yes, so the ANP M53 was used by the French military from assumably 1953 onwards into the 1990s, and shortly afterwards when the ANP-VP-F1 or ARFA mask began to replace it, and it is the current issue mask today. I do not know if any ANP M53s are still in service. It is very doubtful that they are, because this is basically and essentially a World War II design that the French continued to use all the way up through the Cold War and into the modern era. So, that being said, let's just take a look at the details of the mask. The outlet valve, as with the M51, is just a cage. I'm really not sure why they felt the need to upgrade this. I guess maybe to just... again, I'm not really sure. My only guess is to distinguish it from the Belgian ones. I'm not really sure what the improvement here is, other than making the outlet valve a bit more robust and less prone to breaking, because if you compare it to the M51's outlet valve, which again, I assume the French M51 would have been the same as the Belgian ones, just the Belgian ones had a different manufacturer. These were notorious for tearing and breaking, and they were difficult to replace, whereas these were, I would assume, would be a lot fairly simpler to replace. But anyhow, yeah, that's the main difference with the outlet valves. Again, I'm not sure why they made that change. Maybe, again, my best guess is just to make it less fragile. Maybe better voice protection. I am not sure. But whatever the case, that's what they did. As far as I know, the hardware is exactly all the same as the ANP M51. But getting a close-up look at the markings here, this is the main way you can tell the French ones. You can see the MAS stamp right there. I'm pretty sure that stands for something. I'm not entirely sure because, again, I'm not so well versed on my French equipment. One of these is the date. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. I believe it's the one down here, which could potentially mean this facepiece is dated 1987. However, it might be also likely that it is dated 1997, as you can see up here. Again, I'm not really sure which one for sure is the date, so if you know for sure, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. But I'm fairly certain that 87 is probably the date on this example. And you can see the head harness, which is a 6-strap rubber harness, which astonishingly, the mask, despite being heavily discolored and sun damaged, it is not dry rotted at all. Probably because the mask is not made out of natural rubber latex, but is made out of some sort of synthetic rubber. Perhaps, I don't know, I don't want to say it's neoprene. It could be neoprene, but it seems very odd. Because usually neoprene, or chloroprene as it's known, is typically black. They don't usually make it in very many other colors. But anyways, that's besides the point. The facepiece is some sort of artificial rubber, which has led to the fact of why it is not dry rotted entirely. The only dry rotted parts are the valves themselves, which are completely seized up and unmovable. The lower straps are pretty ergonomic. The problem with this harness is it is very difficult to adjust, but you only need to adjust it once because you do not need to adjust the lower bottom straps to fit the mask. You simply just stretch them and hook them into place. I'm not going to do it though on camera because it's a bit difficult on the display head. And that's really all there is to see externally. You got a marking back here, MRE18, not sure what that refers to. And then another marking over here, which is another indicator this is a French mask. The LUE, and then a number beside that. This one is a -5 or something. I'm not sure if that would have been originally a number, but got scratched out. But it doesn't appear to be, so I'm just going to say it's -5. And then my example is a size 2, or more likely a medium. So, that being said, I will take it off the head here. Actually, no, one last thing I did not mention about the exterior here is this little stem, this little button, little molded thing in between the inlet and outlet valve. That is for the tank crew variant of this facepiece. It is basically, when they were making the tank crew variants of the M51/53, what they would do is they would punch out this hole, they'd punch another hole through the TSO deflectors, and then they'd route a microphone cord through that into the mask. But because this is the typical infantry variant, they did not need to do that, and so that hole is left blank. So anyways, now I will move on to the interior, now that there's nothing else to show externally. And again, not terrible condition mask. I'm not the most pleased with it. I feel like I paid a little bit more than I should have for this just because of my assumption that it is a black rubber mask, which it is not. But anyways, you can get a good look at the interior. Again, pretty much the same as the ANP-M51, so nothing too special to remark about this. You see the two very prominent TSO deflectors and the metal mesh over the outlet valve port to prevent debris from getting wedged in there and lodging the valve open. And another thing I've never understood is these two molded flaps just behind the TSO deflectors. I'm not sure what those are for. Maybe to improve sealing on the cheeks or to account for any faces that have dimples. I'm really not entirely sure, but they're there, and that's what it has. So that is pretty much all there is to say about the ANP-M51. I probably will be selling this, so if you are interested in a legitimate French ANP-M51, feel free to let me know, and I'll try and cut you a good deal for it. I don't want to sell it for too less than I put into it, but I'll be flexible about it if you're interested. So, that being said, I am Duke Nuka 3D. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns, drop them in the comments below, and I hope you all have a very good New Year.